Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butts Chester. You guys know who I am, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about our topic. Today, we'll be talking about stop waiting for the old you to build a new life. So, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea because we are about to get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. That's right, I'm your host, Dr. Angela Buchester, and I'm happy to be here with you for another day. So, our base scripture for today, what gives us our foundation, is Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. In part, it says, "See, I am doing a new thing." So, welcome again to Daily Spark with Dr. Angela, where we start off every day with a thankful heart, with an attitude of gratitude, and with intention, clarity, and encouragement to have an awesome and amazing life, the exact way we believe that God has intended for us. Now, today's motivational conversation is for the person who knows that they are being called into something greater, but keeps feeling stuck in old cycles. So, today's topic, stop waiting for the old you to build the new life. Let me say that again because I want to make sure that it really, really settles in deeply. Stop waiting for the old version of you to build the life that requires growth, healing, discipline, courage, and transformation. Now, many people say that what they want is a new season. A new season in life. Others may say, I'm working on that healthier relationship. hmm that's a good one. Or a stronger business. You want to be more successful in the business that you're doing. Totally understand. You want to create emotional peace. I have to admit, that is a good one. Most people do want to feel peace. They don't want to be in a life filled with chaos. I definitely understand that one. Or maybe yours is spiritual maturity, learning to take the high ground and not the low ground, not only when it comes to things in your physical space, but also understanding when it comes to your faith. Or maybe yours is financial stability, which we all want to make sure that we not only have something for our today, but we have something for our tomorrow. And as scripture so inspires us for our children's tomorrow as well, for our children's children's children. And here's a good one. Maybe you simply want greater purpose. And it's always wonderful to walk in your purpose. That's something that I talk about all the time. But at the same time, they are still thinking, responding, procrastinating, avoiding, and operating from an outdated version of themselves. And eventually, you have to face the truth. A new life requires a new mindset. As Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing." Notice something important there. God said new thing, not a recycled something, not an upcycled something, not a repeated something, not another version of survival, not someone else's hand me down to you that you've kind of tried to make work. He said new. But here's the challenge. We often ask God for new while clinging tightly to the old. You cling to old habits, old fears, old excuses, old emotional patterns, old definitions of ourselves. And sometimes, for the greatest delay in our lives, it is not because there is a lack of opportunity, it is attachment to familiarity. It's attachment to those things that feel closest, those things that feel like they're home. Because familiar may not be healthy, but it feels predictable. And I say that because just because something feels like home, and I say that with air quotes, it doesn't always mean that it's safe. For those that have grown up in a space where your literal home was not safe for you know exactly what I mean. Or perhaps you have experienced some type of trauma in a place that you thought was a safe place for you. That's what I mean by home. Home isn't always safe. Home isn't always the cotton candy that we make it out to be for some people. And for those people, you can attach yourself or stay too close to the thing that feels familiar because even though it's not the best home, it's still home. And people will stay connected, unfortunately, to what is familiar, even when it limits them. Perhaps you come from a great home, but it's limited in what it can get you. And you need to branch out. Everyone who has experienced major growth in their field understands that in order to achieve that grandness, that large scale, that big thing that you're trying to do, it is fine to start off. Every great business started off in their garage in the 80s, right? Everyone, shout out to the moms, to the boomers who let us Gen Xers start out in in the garage or in the basement, right? Uh so many bands, so many brands have started that way, and now what they're huge. And sometimes the greatest delay in our lives is not a lack of opportunity. It is attachment to the familiar. Because familiar may not be healthy, but it feels predictable. If home, if familiar was a traumatic experience for you, even though it was, many times you will still stay close because it's predictable, because it is home, because it is familiar. And people will stay connected to what is familiar even when it is limiting them as well. So maybe your home, your familiar, it didn't produce any harm, it wasn't traumatic, but it might be limited in what it is able to do for you. So think about how many times people will say, "Oh, that's just how I am," or "I've always done it that way," or "I'm not good at change," or "Maybe this is just my personality." Their excuses is what they are. But growth asks different questions of us. Growth says, what if who you have been is not who you are meant to remain? With every great thing that grows, there is that stage and that phase of learning, of looking inward, of taking that and producing something more. People always use the wonderful example of the butterfly because it is something that most have seen. You start off as a lovely little cutie little caterpillar, and that after it goes through the natural process, comes out on the other side a beautiful butterfly. And every single step is needed. Without the step, the transformation cannot and will not happen. So, all of the life lessons that you have picked up along the way, all of the ups, the downs, the lefts, and the rights have all helped to make you the successful person that you are today. What if this next season requires a stronger version of you? Are you ready? Are you like the little baby sea turtle that must go from the sand to the ocean? That you have to learn how to, use those little flippers of yours, those little fins of yours to be the strongest version of you. But if you're not ducking the birds overhead, if you've never gone through anything, then there may be a time of growth ahead for you. I'm not wishing doom or gloom upon you. By all means, no. Life will do that on its own. What I'm saying is take those moments of doom and gloom, of hardship, of roughness, of people throwing rocks at you to build that which you need to be a wiser version of you. Take it, learn from it, and become a healed version of you. And if you're going to really talk about the moment, transformation sounds exciting until it starts demanding change. Most people are like, yeah, let's do it. And then it starts getting hard, it starts getting tough, and most people want to give up. Most people don't want to do it anymore, and they want to go, I don't know what I was thinking, never mind. But just like the runner, just like when you learn to go from your morning walk to your morning jog, you have to learn how to quiet that voice in your head that says, we can't run another step. We don't need to go another half mile. This is it. I'm giving up. I'm going to fall out. And you go, no, you're not. No, you're not. Right? And guess what? We're now able to run those 4 or 5 extra blocks, that half mile, that next mile. We're able to do it because we learn to silence, to still the chaos, the confusion, the redirection. We learn to silence that part that says that we cannot, and we turn up the volume on the side that says that we can. And when we look at that, when we remember that we can do that, because everyone loves the elevation, right? But the elevation comes with responsibility. And a healthier life requires healthier habits. A peaceful life requires emotional maturity. A disciplined life requires consistency. And a purposeful life requires intentionality. You cannot keep choosing the same patterns and expect completely different outcomes. At some point, you have to decide, am I committed to the comfort or am I committed to the growth? And whichever answer you choose, that's what you're going to stand on because growth will stretch you. It will challenge your routines. It will expose your excuses. It will reveal the areas where you still need healing. But it will also introduce you to the person you are capable of becoming. And I believe that there are people listening today who are standing at the edge of transformation. You can feel it, can't you? You know something is shifting internally, but the tension comes from this. The tension comes from the part of you that wants the new life. Another part of you is afraid to let go of the old identity. And this is where many people stall. Not because they lack potential, but because they are emotionally navigating with the version of themselves that they have outgrown. grown. Alrighty, everyone, it is time for us to take a very short break, but when we get back, we will continue this conversation. We'll be back right after this.
For many people, a breast cancer diagnosis can feel like a battle they're facing alone. But we are in this together because there are mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our friends. NBCF rallies and screening, supporting, and serving communities across the country. Because every woman matters. Every story is powerful. Every voice makes a difference.
Just beat breast cancer.
And every dollar helps. Together, we rise. Are you in?
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butch-Chester. I am really, really, really excited about this topic that we're talking about today, and that is you cannot build a different life. We are talking today about stop waiting for the old you to build the new life. Because, hey, we've got to do something new if we want different results. Now, nothing wrong with the old. We're going to continue to utilize what works, but for the things that don't work, it's time to replace those things. And the things that do work, make sure that you're still doing those at top notch as well. We don't want to just sit back on our laurels. We want to make sure that everything is exactly the way that it possibly could be. So let's jump back into that conversation. Old patterns cannot produce new results. One of the hardest truths in personal growth is realizing that some of the behaviors that once protected you are now limiting you. Maybe overworking helped you survive difficult seasons, or maybe people pleasing helped you avoid conflict. Maybe staying quiet kept you emotionally safe. Or maybe procrastination protected you from the fear of failure. But eventually, survival habits stop serving growth. And if you're not careful, you will keep repeating patterns that no longer fit your current arrangement. This is why self awareness matters so much. Because many people are asking God to change their lives while refusing to examine their patterns. But your patterns reveal your agreements, they reveal what you believe about yourself, they reveal what you will tolerate. They reveal what you fear. They reveal what you avoid. And they reveal what you prioritize. And sometimes the breakthrough is not external. Sometimes the breakthrough is recognizing I cannot continue living this way if I want something different. That realization is beautiful because change begins with honesty. Not shame, not self condemnation, but honesty. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot grow beyond what you refuse to confront. And let me encourage someone listening. Recognizing unhealthy patterns does not make you a failure, it makes you self aware. The awareness is the beginning of transformation. Now, here is another thing people do they wait for motivation before they change. But motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel inspired, some days you don't. That is why growth cannot depend entirely on emotion. It has to be supported by discipline. And discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self respect in action. Discipline says, my future matters enough for me to become consistent. Consistency changes lives, not perfection, consistency. Small, repeated choices shape identity over time. The way you think daily matters. The way you speak to yourself matters. The way you manage your time matters. The environments you stay connected to matter. Everything is shaping who you are becoming. And if you keep operating from exhaustion, fear, distraction, avoidance, or emotional chaos, eventually it becomes difficult to sustain healthy growth. This is why transformation must happen internally before it becomes visible externally. People love visible success, but visible success is usually built on invisible work. Private discipline, private healing, private prayer, private reflection, even private decisions. Long before a life changes publicly, it changes quietly. And some of you are in that quiet transformation season right now. Do not underestimate it. You may not feel fully different yet, but every intentional decision is moving you forward. Every boundary, every healthy choice, even uncomfortable conversations, every moment you choose growth over avoidance. Yeah, it matters. You may not see it, but it matters. So, if there's nothing else that you remember from today, I want you to remember this. A new life requires a new mindset. Let's go a little bit deeper. Because if you truly want a different life, you cannot only change your behaviors, you must also change the way you think. Romans 12:2 reminds us this way: be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation begins internally. Your thoughts shape your perspective. Your perspective shapes your decisions. Your decisions shape your life. And many people are trying to create new experiences with old mentalities. You cannot consistently speak negativity over yourself and expect confidence to grow. You cannot consistently speak rejection and still move boldly and think that positivity will flow. You cannot continue thinking from a scarcity mindset while praying for expansion. Mindset matters. Now, let's be clear. Positive thinking alone is not the answer, but it helps. This is not about pretending that life is easy. This is about learning how to think with wisdom, faith, emotional maturity, and intentionality. It's about refusing to let fear become your default setting. Because some people have become so accustomed to disappointment that they expect things to go wrong even before they begin. And that expectation quietly shapes their behavior. They hesitate, they self sabotage, they overthink, they delay opportunity, and they shrink themselves before anyone else has the opportunity to reject them. But healing changes how you approach life. Growth changes how you approach life. You begin to realize I do not have to keep repeating old emotional cycles. You, my dear listener, can be set free because you are free indeed. And here's something important. A new version of you will require new standards, new boundaries, new habits, new conversations, and new levels of accountability. Because growth changes your tolerance. Things that once felt normal start feeling draining. Things that once felt acceptable begin to feel misaligned. That is growth. And sometimes growth feels lonely at first because you're no longer comfortable settling for old patterns. But do not confuse your loneliness with loss. Sometimes space is necessary for transformation. Sometimes God removes the distractions so clarity can develop. And let me encourage you, do not romanticize old versions of yourself that were rooted in survival mode. Honor how far you have come because, yes, you have, in fact, come quite far. But do not keep returning emotionally to who you needed to be in order to survive that difficult season. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to heal, to mature, to grow. You are allowed to outgrow behaviors that no longer reflect your values. This is not betrayal. This is growth. Alrighty, everyone. We are out of time, but I want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me, and I thank you for doing so. As always, I hope that the Lord continues to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.